Hey, it's Wednesday. It's Rumor and Innuendo, and I am Dominic D'Angelo of adfreeshows.com, SEScoops.com, and OneTrueSport.com. But I'm here today with Robert Karpelis, WD Creative _ish on X. Robert, what a Wednesday. We're talking the Dynamite, man.
Look, I finished the yawn right before we came on. I was trying my hardest, and I did. So I'm going to consider this a success. Today we'll be talking the Dynamite. We'll be talking a variety of other topics, a couple topics that Tom has put on for the last couple of days. We haven't had a chance to even get to because there has just been so much news, so much content, so many exciting things in the world of wrestling. We're happy you're joining us here today. We'll say hi to Dre Owens, who says, top of the morning, let's go double jet. Nope, Dre Owens, we don't. This is not a Jeff Jarrett safe space here.
Oh, it is.
Alt Jake says, good morning. Happy the Dynamite Wednesday. Happy the Dynamite Wednesday to you too. There is the Dynamite tonight, and I have I think there's only one match I remember that they had previously announced that we put on the rundown here, Dom. But let's get to our top story.
Let's get to it. Yeah, Robert, this could be the greatest night in the history of our sport because Jeff Jarrett will be taking on Bryan Danielson in an anything goes match with Ricky, the Dragon Steamboat, as, get ready for this, a special guest. What does that mean, Robert, to you?
Wait, he's just a special guest? He's not a special guest referee?
Special guest. He's not an enforcer. He's not a timekeeper. He's not even a referee. He is just a special guest.
So I'm gonna ask, because I did not watch Rampage, and based on the ratings, nobody watched Rampage this week. 200,000 views on Rampage, and I did not watch Collision. So is there, because I was watching SummerSlam, is there a reason for Ricky Steamboat's involvement here that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of, because I too was watching SummerSlam. I too did not watch Rampage, so I like the addition of him. Ricky Steamboat's always a great presence to have there, so he kind of elevates things, and it's kind of neat that him and Danielson have this kind of connection. They're both dragons, and then we have Jeff Jarrett, two legends, Ricky Steamboat, Jeff Jarrett. So I'm all for it, even if they didn't make any sense of it, and we didn't even see it.
I love Ricky Steamboat. He's obviously an incredible talent. When I worked with him at WWE, he was a delight. He was one of my favorite people to get an opportunity to ever work with. When I had the chance, when I was working at the Florida Panthers, and we did a pro wrestling night, and I was working with Tommy Dreamer, and Tommy, he was like, here's a list of talent that we can potentially contract with to bring in for this event. And as soon as I saw Steamboat on there, I'm like, we're bringing Ricky. And Ricky made me look like $1 million. He's the best, the humblest guy you will ever meet. My favorite Ricky Steamboat anecdote is while he was there at the Panther game, we're walking around and talking to people, and we happened to be playing the Red Wings. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, I wrestled in Detroit before against Savage. I'm like, oh, you mean the greatest WrestleMania match of all time that you just offhand mentioned? Oh yeah, and I wrestled him in Detroit. Like, oh, you mean WrestleMania 3, the thing that every wrestler points to as one of the reasons why they got into the business? Yeah, I've heard of that. Love Steamboat, love Danielson. Jarrett constantly bumps us on Mondays from ad-free shows on YouTube, so he is our mortal enemy, as is his one of his producers, Marcus D'Angelo, who is banned from this show unless there's ever a day where you and I are not here and we need a backup. He's generally available. But look, this is a very strange match because we all heard the rumor and innuendo that Bryan was told by the doctors, hey, take it easy going into All In. You know, we want to make sure you're at your peak physical conditioning. This felt like a risk, and now they're using him to wrestle Jeff Jarrett, who was the emotional crux of the Owen Hart tournament. I don't know what the purpose of the story is. Like, I need to be invested in Bryan Danielson and Swerve. I don't need to be invested in the guy who's telling Danielson, hey, can you at least pretend that you care about winning the title instead of constantly talking about how you don't need it and you're going to retire?
I think I'm just intrigued by the matchup itself, but I think the part of it is like, okay, if Danielson wants to prove it, he's got to prove it to the guy who wants him to prove it. And so him going through him,
That was a spectacular sentence.
well, thank you.
Like
Yes,
Jim Ross's head would have exploded right there with all the pronouns that you were throwing. He and him.
it all tied together, you know. And Jeff Jarrett, I think, will tie this thing together, and Bryan Danielson too. I think, you know, it'll be a fun diversion from where we're going with Swerve and
No,
Danielson.
no, no, no. We don't have time for diversions.
We
The pay
don't.
per view is coming up in a couple weeks, and we have really had no reason to be super excited about this particular match, other than Bryan won the Owen Hart tournament. Bryan has announced that he's retiring. He's no longer theoretically under the full-time contract that he's under, and he's facing Swerve by default to the fact that Swerve is currently holding the AEW World title. We kind of need a little more. And when you're opening up the creative playbook, the first play that you're calling should not be Jeff Jarrett.
Well, the man knows how to tell a story, Robert. I think we'll be okay. I think we'll be all right. I like it. I'm excited. This, Robert, I'm not gonna lie. This is my all-in match anyway. So this is what I wanted, and I'm getting it tonight. So
Danielson Jarrett.
yes, this was
You're an
it.
odd man, dude. You are an odd duck that you look at the entire AEW roster and like, you know what I would love to see? 50-something-year-old Jeff Jarrett taking on Bryan Danielson.
Mm. Chef's kiss. I love it.
I feel like you were a King Mabel fan as a kid.
No, I wasn't. I actually really did not like Mabel.
All right. Wow. So in defense,
Uh-huh.
super nice guy.
Mabel?
Really? Oh yeah. Worked with him when he was Big Vis. He was wearing the purple pajamas. Very nice guy, very humble guy. King Mabel sucked wind. It was terrible, but we can all admit that Men on a Mission rap, fantastic.
But what an absolute bop, as the folks say. An absolute bop is that one.
God damn it, Tom.
Trying to stay current, Robert. Hey, speaking of staying current, let's stay current with the bad apple himself, Mr. Brian Keith, taking on Shibata. So you know I'm loving this Dynamite already, Robert.
Wait, is his nickname really the Bad Apple?
Yeah, it is the bad apple. You didn't know that?
I'm not a massive Brian Keith fan like you. I'm not the devoted Keith head that you are, Mr. D'Angelo. But I thought this match took place on Collision. I guess I was wrong. But
No.
cool. Look, what I like about this is that while Brian Keith and Shibata are wrestling, hopefully Chris Jericho is not on commentary.
I think that's going to happen.
Well, then I don't want to see this match. They will find a way to ruin this.
Well, hey,
Hi, Taz!
They almost found a way to ruin this matchup. It's MJF versus Kyle Fletcher. Sounds great, but Robert, guess what? It's an eliminator match for the American Championship. I think they're trolling us at this point, Robert. I think
It's really not an eliminator match, is it?
it's an eliminator match.
My God, it really is an eliminator match.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, what are they doing? Why are they doing this to
This
us,
is just
Dom?
to get to us, I think, Robert. We expressed our distaste for eliminator matches, and they're just leaning into it big time.
By the way, it wouldn't shock me. I feel like the way that Tony books sometimes, it's like you're playing to an audience of one, which was always the criticism of Vince, that he was just booking for himself and that we were all in turn booking just for him. Like, if this is a spite booking, I love it. Like, if that's what it is. Otherwise, so Kyle Fletcher had called out MJF last week.
Yes.
That was weak. I'm not confusing him with Britt Baker. Kyle Fletcher is the one that called MJF out in public in order to make money for the company that they both work for.
There you go.
And the idea was, I'm going to shut you up because of what you did to my friend. And that gets you an eliminator match for the American title, which is that now the recognized title? Isn't that the fake title that he made? And he's technically the international. Nope. Nope, my brain started going down the path of making sense of Tony Khan booking, and it just stopped working. On the plus side, Fletcher's babyface promo last week was great. showed a lot of fire, showed a lot of promise. I think that him and MJF in the ring should be a really great match, and it's advancing the Ospreay story. Unfortunately, the cloud that's hanging over this whole match, this whole situation, is the Britt Baker backstage mess.
Right. You gave your perspective on that with Kevin, right, on Friday?
A little bit. So we've gotten more detail that's come out from it. Yes, the more rumor and innuendo that I believe I got from SE Scoops, actually, a reputable website out there amongst some of the heathens, the Sean Ross Sapps of the world. But
we're the real journalists over at SE.
it was kind of like, it was why Max was not suspended while Britt was suspended. And it sounds like the chronology of the events were that Britt Baker was besmirching Maxwell Jacob Friedman to his girlfriend, Alicia Atout.
Probably not a good move.
Right, who's now been brought in as a backstage announcer. And this was going on during the MJF Ospreay match.
It was happening. I didn't know that.
This was apparently at that Dynamite, and that this was occurring during that. So after this happened, Alicia obviously tells her boyfriend, hey, yo. I'm assuming she did this the full on Scott Hall. She threw her toothpick at him. Hey, yo, the dentist is talking mad smack about you. Max is obviously upset. Ospreay seems to intervene and goes and confronts Britt Baker in the, hey, what you doing here, pal? Like, you just came back from a series of unfortunate injuries, including the mini strokes that you were suffering. You have a lot of goodwill and sympathy. You're going into one of the biggest matches of your career at All In against Mercedes Moné, who they spent a lot of money to bring in. What's the deal? I guess Max confronted her in the women's locker room. Afterwards, he was frustrated. He punched a wall. Wow. But they reviewed the footage. I swear to you, there's actually footage. They reviewed the footage and they realized Max did not necessarily do anything wrong enough to warrant a suspension. Britt Baker's behavior did, so she was suspended for 2 weeks, which I know was last week, because last week Mercedes, during her promo, apparently mentioned that the Young Bucks on camera had suspended her. So I guess Britt is still off TV this week, but this now is like a dark cloud hanging over two of the biggest matches at All In. And I kind of want to see MJF Britt Baker. I feel like that'd be a fun match.
I think that would be a fun one. Yeah, we could definitely make, I think, it's facilitated. There's been some nonsensical booking going on. Why not do this one here? Look, I always adopt the Jimmy Johnson philosophy when it comes to this stuff. Like, if you're talented and you screw up and you're a big star, there can be some exceptions made. If you're Britt Baker, who hasn't been on television forever, and then you're trying to stir the pot, and then you got to ride with MJF than you do with Britt Baker at this point, because she hasn't really drawn you anything. This is about making money. I don't care if there was like some egregiousness between the two. I think you ride with the star in most cases. And this is, I don't know. It's a very counterproductive on Britt Baker's end in many ways. Heck, it's very selfish if this is all deep what happened. And you don't want that in your locker room, especially now with the TV deal impending, and you're affecting your biggest show of the year yet again.
So the caveat that I would put on there, yes, if it's a tie on all ends, you're probably going to go with the individual who's making you money. I remember back during the Matt Hardy, Lita, Edge debacle, Matt Hardy was the one who ultimately got let go because they felt there was more money to be made with Edge. And when they did bring him back, we found a way to make money off of it, which was great. In this instance, I don't think their decision-making was because Max is more valuable to the company. I think if Max initiated this, if this escalated, if he was punching walls in front of her and storming into women's locker rooms and causing a scene, then they would absolutely have suspended him. I think Britt Baker absolutely has a financial viability to the company. She's an AEW original. But at the end of the day, the positives need to outweigh the negatives. And the fact that previously she was at the heart of what upended the women's locker room before. A lot of the issues with Thunder Rosa, a lot of the issues with some of the other women that were in the locker room and said it was not a great environment. She comes back, and then you're immediately going to Max's girlfriend to vocalize negative things about him, and then you're mad at Alicia for saying these things. Anyone who's out there who has a boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband, whatever, if someone is speaking ill of your partner, you're going to tell your partner.
That's
You're
it.
not going to respond and be like, you know what? You're right.
Communication is key in a relationship.
Yeah, this guy stinks. He's the worst. I'm so glad I'm with him. It was clearly meant to, stir up bad feelings. And guys,
Hey,
if you're looking to stir up some good feelings, our next sponsor needs no introduction. You've seen the ads. You've heard us talk about it a million times, and I bet there's a big part of you, pun intended, that wants to try it. What am I talking about? Blue Chew. That's right. This isn't your grandpa's blue pill. This is the one. The OG chewable tablet for better sex. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in chewable form. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew tablets are made in the USA and prepared and shipped directly to your door. The best part, it's all done online. No visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. We all know MJF put his fist through the wall, but if he took some Blue Chew, he could have put something else through that wall.
Hey now.
Because Blue Chew wants to help the entire country be rock hard. They told me that's the mission. They will not stop until every man is bricked up like a brick house, till every tent is pitched, till every rod is raised. Discover your options at BlueChew.com. We've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code RUMOR at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's BlueChew.com, promo code RUMOR to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this episode of Rumor and Innuendo.
Yes, thank you, Blue Chew.
That was so genuine the way you used it. It was like, well, thank you. Like they picked up a lady's handkerchief as it fell to the ground.
Very chivalrous is Blue Chew. I have to say, it's not dead here. It's not dead here on Rumor and Innuendo. They didn't have a whole lot more left on this card. It was Mariah May taking on Viva Van. Gonna be
Viva La Bam?
No, Viva. Yeah, Bam Margera's.
Bam Margera's taking on Mariah May. That sounds like a banger.
But
right
Big
there.
Margito, R.I.P. But
is he dead?
Oh yeah, he's gone, man.
When was the last time someone was talking about? Like, I thought he. No, I don't remember. I thought there were some issues with him that I'm not going to insinuate.
Okay.
That sometimes causes issues on here. So we're not going to go down that path. But yeah, I think you look at where we're going to All In. They can't really do much with Mercedes and Britt unless you have Camille have another squash match.
Mm-hmm.
There are the tag titles, which it sounds like we're going to a triple threat tag match at All In, FTR and the Acclaimed and the Bucks. Unless there's an eliminator. We did see an eliminator last week for the CMLL women's title.
This is ridiculous.
Was it the women's title or was it like the CMLL women's intercontinental? I don't know what it was, but we will probably get some more with Chris Statlander and Willow Nightingale, I would imagine. What else is there? I'm sure some more stuff with the Elite.
Yeah.
We got Jack Perry and Darby.
I can only imagine, too, we'll get something. Swerve will be talking or doing something, right?
Maybe Hangman comes out dressed like Seth Rollins.
How funny would that be?
It would not be that funny.
I'd get a kick out of it.
Well, you're a sick man. But it sounds like some folks we won't be seeing are the Lucha Bros.
Yes, that's correct. Lucha Bros, they did a little video for him. And apparently, Robert, I don't know if you can confirm this for me, but they removed a video. That video that they posted, it was like a timeline video for the Lucha Brothers on AEW, but apparently it's no longer up.
I did hear that as well, that it looked like they were building to a 6-man trios match at Wembley which was probably going to be Pac's Wembley opportunity, because it's not like he won the glory hole match to get a shot at the international title, but that got thrown in the trash and has been replaced by the American title, which has been certified as a legitimate AEW championship.
Mhm.
But I feel as though we're going to see the Lucha Bros in WWE, hopefully sooner rather than later. But WWE seems to be putting a lot of focus not only on acquiring some guys, but on the young folks at NXT.
Correct. We've been talking Billy in the CW almost every day, and
Almost
now
daily, to the point where you're like, guys, can you stop with all the Billy and the
appointment
CW? It's so
television.
much.
You'd think I do love REM, but it was a little much to say anything about Billy and the CW too much. But hey,
Well, everybody hurts
everybody does hurt.
sometimes, but
Mhm.
it's not going to be
But
hurting if you're attending an NXT taping, right,
that's
Dom?
right. You might be shiny happy people if you attend NXT taping, because starting October 1st, they will be debuting on the CW, and in a very big way, as they actually will go to the All-State Arena for this first episode and featuring Mr. CM Punk.
Wow, a wrestling show in Chicago. That's original.
Do you think that's yeah, I haven't seen one of them in a while. But so that should be exciting. And then the following week, they're not stopping. They're going to St. Louis. Let's go Cards, as I'm wearing a Pirates hat. But they will have Randy Orton there. And not only that, Robert, not only that, they'll be going up against AEW that week too. So
Wow.
lots at stake.
So the CW move is a far bigger deal than I think people really understand, because of the far-reaching nature of CW. It is still a network. It is still something you don't need cable in order to be able to watch. And the way viewing, behaviors are, everyone that's currently watching NXT on USA, who watched it from when it was on the WWE network, is going to migrate over there. And the NXT numbers have been doing pretty good. The
Mhm.
fact that you're bringing in Punk, the fact that you're bringing in Orton, they're stealing from the old ECW on Sci-Fi playbook, where it's like, let's put Flair on there, let's put Big Show on there, let's put Batista on there. But now you're putting acts that are actually very, very hot. CM Punk on the first episode of NXT, as a guy that we know has designs of being the future Shawn Michaels of NXT. That's going to be really, really interesting. And we saw previously, when I remember when Seth Rollins was on NXT, and the way they had him interact with everybody, and Carmelo Hayes going up and talking to him, like, you're able to intermix that person throughout the show and give some people the rub. Orton being on there the week after, we know he's the headline of Bash in Berlin, whatever it may be. There's a lot of cool opportunities for him there on NXT.
Right.
And
Right.
I, for one, think Sean Spears will take one hell of an RKO.
It's a good point. That's a very good point. And it will be exciting. It's cool to see wrestling broaden their horizons a little bit more, get more of an audience, and whether it's WWE or AEW, it's good stuff. It's good stuff for the business. So
It's going
looking
to be
forward.
very hard for them to avoid being slightly petty. And when they know they're up against AEW, put Ethan Page in the main event.
Yeah, they could do quite a bit with that if they want to. And you know
Him,
what?
Lexus King, Sean Spears. The
Why not
list.
have Cody Rhodes pop in too?
No. That would be overkill. That would be like if all of a sudden, like that one time, they had the Undertaker show up, and you're like,
Yeah.
why is Undertaker here?
Well, hey, he might want to show up another time here, Robert, because on an episode of Impulsive, the latest one, Logan Paul, obviously, he said he's up for having one more match. He said, that's what I was looking for. Yeah, just to put the exclamation point on the career. I wanted to have one more match that I could hang my hat on and say goodbye. I mean, I think he was referring to his choke slam too at WrestleMania that he gave to The Rock. Probably charged up some batteries that he wanted, gave him some feelings. And here we are. Do you think we could see Undertaker indeed have one more match?
I am going to go when we're done
Mm-hmm.
and pull up the WWE Network. I'm going to set up my VCR. I'm going to record on a VHS tape and send to the Undertaker his match with Goldberg. And I'm going to say, Undertaker, we love you. We respect you. We are willing to accept that you do this weird one-man show, and you were a guy who never talked, and now you're a guy who just won't shut up. Please don't wrestle again. We can't have another situation like that. We've seen the last Undertaker match a couple times. Undertaker, remember when he like lost to Roman Reigns and he took the boots off and you're like, never again. And then you still saw him again. And then there was the graveyard match
Yeah,
with
AJ.
AJ Styles, which main evented WrestleMania. It was well produced. It was what it was. I have some mixed feelings about it, but hey, that was a good, like, he's ridden off into the sunset. Again, I don't think we need any more Undertaker matches. I think that I get getting the itch. The choke slam was fine at WrestleMania. It didn't erase the fact that we all wanted it to be Steve Austin instead, but it is what it is. I think he's gonna, get a little clickbaity and say, I would love to have another match. Who is there for him to really wrestle that would be impactful? The only name that really comes to mind would be Gunther.
Yeah.
But do I really want to see Gunther kill off The Undertaker and John Cena in the same 6-month window of time?
Boy, man, that would definitely get him over even more big time, But yeah, I can certainly understand where Undertaker's coming from, especially if he ended it on a cinematic match, is where he came, like, that was the finality of it all.
He ended it on a cinematic match. I don't need to see him back in a ring anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough to do. We've seen him. Yeah, that Goldberg match is something else, and I don't know. You could. I don't know who you could make him who would compliment him at this juncture. Where it could have a good match or try to.
I mean, there's guys, there's people you could figure out to plug in there and try to get another match out of Taker, but what's the real benefit to it? It's going to be diminished returns. Go back and watch Flair's last match. In fact, don't go back and watch Flair's last match. And not just because it involves Jeff Jarrett.
I can't wait for tonight, Robert. I'm excited. Very excited. Are you excited about the prospect of perhaps Stephanie McMahon getting back into the fold of WWE? So this has been on the list for since SummerSlam. Triple H did make mention that she was there. She is officially not in any role, but she does love the business and basically didn't leave it away that she could come back. Would she add value behind the scenes still? And, you consider all the stuff with Shane going on in AEW. Where's your head at on this, Robert?
So I like Stephanie. I enjoyed working for Stephanie. I found her someone who was definitely open and receptive to some ideas. I think part of the allure for her is getting the chance to do that job without Vince there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of her value was she was the Vince whisperer. She was the person who was able to decipher what we were trying to say to Vince to get him on board with it. At the same time, it's not as if it's difficult for her to get the ear of the current head of creative with Triple H. I think if she came back, it would create a little bit of a power imbalance of, okay, who's truly in charge here? With Hunter, it's like the buck stops with him. That's kind of what I like about this. I feel like if she wants sway, if she wants to have some kind of influence, she can have that in a fairly unofficial capacity. But if she was back there working, it's like, okay, who are we listening to? Are we listening to Stephanie? Are we listening to Hunter? What happens if we get conflicting information? Who's running these meetings? It seems like a potential recipe for disaster. I think she's very happy being able to watch the company thrive, watch her husband thrive, and contribute as she sees fit. As long as she doesn't show up in AEW, I think we're okay.
I think we're good then. I think we're good. Do you think showing her on SummerSlam was intentional in regards to response to Shane?
No, I don't. That's an interesting. I don't think it was necessarily a response to Shane. I think it was just she's here, and it's a way to show a dignitary in the front row.
Mm-hmm. Just coincidental.
Potentially, theoretically coincidental. I'm not conspiratorial like you, Mr. D'Angelo. I'm not conspiratorial like your good close personal friend, Mr. Rob Van Dam.
Hey, he's very philosophical. And speaking of which, the latest episode of One of a Kind with RVD we cover a lot of all his RVDologies. We have about 5 or 4 of them that we go into. One is very emotional. Another one is really, really funny, involving Scott Norton. My goodness, it's like probably the best clip you will ever hear on the show. It's so good. So go to rvdtv.com. You can check out that episode and learn a little something. And hey, tonight, go to onetruesporttv.com and you will see Fonzie. Me and Fonzie were talking Giant Gonzalez in WWE. We covered him in WCW, and wow, did Fonzie have some stories last time? So he's gonna have some good stories this time. And hey, we're gonna do a little giveaway too. So if you want to enter, go to onetruesporttv.com and see how you do it. Otherwise, check out some Working Stiff coming up here this week.
Yeah, Work and Stuff will be dropping this Thursday. Myself and Scott Chapin talking all the exciting things going on in the world of wrestling, where we can say some of the 4-letter words we're not allowed to say here on this episode. And it's a little bit more freewheeling, fun conversation. But this is always a fun conversation. The fastest half hour in all of pro wrestling. Almost entirely commercial free, with the exception of our beloved Blue Chew sponsor. We got a couple other fun sponsors coming up in the weeks to come. And part of that is because all of you are out there spreading the word of Rumor and Innuendo. So we appreciate you sharing the show, telling your friends, tuning in live at noon Eastern on a plethora of platforms, including the WWE Creative _ish X account, the SE Scoops X account, and on YouTube, Rumor and Innuendo, Working Stiff, and ad-free shows. On behalf of the fairly contemplative Dominic D'Angelo, I'm Robert Karpelis. Best of luck in your future endeavors.
Hey, what's the frequency, Kenneth?